welcome to the Against the Grain podcast, where father and son talk faith and footy. I'm your host, Father Ben, a Catholic priest for the Archdiocese of Sydney, joined today by my spiritual son, Anthony. How are you, Anthony?
I'm good, thank you. I'm pumped today. Keen for this episode. So
wonderful. Joined by a very special guest, Lebanon international and all-round good guy, Josh Maree. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's good.
Good to have you on.
Be good fun.
Good to have you on, mate. Good to have you on. Now, before we begin, we would like everyone to like, subscribe, comment, and follow on all the platforms we're on, ICQ, all the other stuff that you lovely internet people at home love being a part of, or you crazy kids with all of your TikToks and thumb scrolling and all that kind of stuff. Just get into it. It's a good show. I'm wearing a little bit thin on all the other platforms that are no longer existent.
Yeah.
VHS.
It's hard.
VHS.
Yeah, we can purchase it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Floppy disk.
Floppy disk.
1.44 megabytes.
Yeah.
Hey, credit to Josh, bro.
What are you going to get? 6 seconds of video.
6 seconds of video, not even. Buffering.
Just eternally buffering. The kids are sitting there
the whole time. But we can't.
We have another full-time host here.
We do.
Fit in already.
The show is not going to do anywhere as good as what it does without your support by liking, subscribing, following, commenting. So I encourage you to do that as best you can. Thanks for being with us all at home. Anthony, get us started.
Well, let's get started. Josh, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.
It's actually it's a pleasure to have you here. I've been keen for this for a while now. Since we found out since you agreed to come on, I was pretty keen. So firstly, we'll just start off just with you telling us a little bit about yourself, your upbringing, faith, family, who you are.
Yeah, so I've got my mum and dad, 2 older sisters and an older brother. Grew up in a very loving family. We're all pretty close in age, so I'm the youngest, and my eldest sister is 6 or 7 years older than me, something like that, around there. So we're all pretty close in age growing up, and we all got along somewhat well. And mum and dad provided a pretty good home for us. So I had a really good childhood. Lots of cousins, lots of first cousins. Mum and dad are both 1 of 7, so I had a lot of first cousins growing up. So a lot of family around. Mum's dad recently passed away last year, but and his her mum's still alive, but always at their house, like big family gatherings. And then on my dad's side, someone would host. It was always a lot of fun and a lot of people and a lot of food. But it was great childhood I had, so it was really good.
Beautiful. And you were raised in the Catholic faith?
Yeah, right? Yeah, I was raised in Catholic faith, so quite often we went to Roman Catholic Mass. We went to Roman Catholic schools as well. My uncle, so my dad's brother, is a Maronite priest, so for a while he was at Croydon, which wasn't far from home, so we'd go there quite a bit as well. So a lot of, I feel like, Maronite Catholics in Australia have that experience of a bit of a hybrid. So you go to a few masses Maronite, a few masses Roman Catholic. And then when I got older, got my license, finished school, I'd go up to Our Lady Lebanon or up in the Hills Parish a fair bit for like youth mass. They always had youth mass, a lot of young people. It was good, and I really enjoyed that. And my girlfriend, now wife at the time, we'd go, a few of my cousins, stuff like that. So it was good, and they have a good communities there, so it was really fun. Yeah.
Nice.
Were you active in the church growing up? Were you part of youth groups and organising committees and all that kind of thing?
No. My sister
went for the free feed.
Yeah, went for the free feed and the social time. But no, I wouldn't say I was actively getting involved in the organising. My sister did a bit and stuff like that, but it never really screamed to me. I guess I didn't really feel comfortable doing it.
Fair enough.
But I enjoyed it. I feel they have a great community with the young people. Everyone gets to know each other quite well. It's a good thing they have going.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And so, I mean, you said you were pretty close with your family, and you have... Now, we have the pleasure of knowing you a little bit closer than just having you on the show today.
Yes.
We know your family... And you do have a beautiful family, very welcoming, they carry, we were speaking last episode with Jacob Carraz about the Lebanese culture, and they do carry that cultural warmth with them. Now you have a love for footy. Your family has a love for footy.
Yes.
So who did you support growing up?
The Bulldogs. So still am supporting them, sticking through.
You're still very welcome on this show. We won't kick you out.
Yeah,
Very good.
yeah.
Dog
So,
supporter.
yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, just
what we like to hear.
It's good. So I was the Bulldogs. All of us were Bulldogs. Mum's Manly, but she like flip flops to the Bulldogs when they're going all right.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she had some story. I think she used to go to Manly games with a friend when she was younger, so that's how she got onto them. But a lot of my cousins are either Para or the Dragons, a few Tigers. So it was good growing up. Everyone loved the footy and everyone would rip into each other.
Yeah.
Especially after
Well then,
a bad loss.
to Mrs. Maree, we did an episode with a Manly player just recently by the name of Josh Alloy.
Yeah.
So like, subscribe, comment, follow, and look at some of those past episodes too, because there's powerful messages coming out of all of these episodes.
Yeah.
Shows the beautiful diversity of the athletes that we've got on.
100%.
And there's something for everyone.
Yeah.
So even Mum might be interested in that
she'll hop
episode.
on her TikTok account and I'm sure she'll give it a look. And,
She has TikTok?
Nah.
I was like, what a shock! I didn't know.
No. Mum would be sitting there with the, have you seen the parents with like the single finger scrolling with the phone this far away? Why isn't this working? And I'll go help her out. So, hey, Mum.
So you supported the Dogs growing up?
Yeah.
Plenty of Belmore games?
Well, I missed out. See, we grew up the road in Campsie, so you could walk there. It'd probably only be a kilometre if that. But Connie and Nat, my two older sisters, got a bit. But then I think it was 99, they stopped playing there. So then I didn't really get it. I was born in 95, so I would have gone to a couple, but I didn't remember. But then when they came back, it was pretty cool. I remember we went to the Monday night game when I think it was the Storm. They played the first time. They went back, and that was pretty cool. And it was good to see them get back there. And
Amazing.
yeah, it's in the area.
I remember going with my old man, and we'd sit on the hill, have a meat pie and a Coke, and they were just. I remember that so fondly. Is what you did with your family when you went to footy.
Yeah.
And then there was that massive riot on the hill. And Dad said, "We're never going to a game again."
Well, I think then I remember my first memory was going to the showground where the Giants play now, but before they developed it, and you were sitting that far away from the footies. But we loved it because they had like a hill sort of section, so me and my cousins used to go, especially one of my cousins, Paul, like his dad is a dog supporter. He'd say they'd come and we'd go there a bit and we enjoyed it. Yeah, but it was a bit far away to probably watch footy looking back. It's not the best viewing point. Yeah. 200 metres away. Who's that? Yeah, but it was good.
The spiritual ground of the Dogs always be Belmore.
Yeah.
And they've had a few home grounds over the years.
Yeah, they have. But you see when they take games back there, it's the best.
People
the atmosphere. Yeah, people go.
Standing room only.
Yeah, and everyone gets around. Even though it doesn't have it's not ideal facilities wise. You don't have good toilets, all that stuff. And the corporates, you probably can't house as many as you want. But everyone loves it and gets around. And I think the way they do it, not too many there, it's perfect. Yeah, the out of town teams, it's great.
Yeah,
it's good.
And your love for footy turned into playing some footy, or love of watching footy, I should say, turned into playing some footy. Yeah. So who'd you play with growing up?
I played at St. John's Eagles a fair while. I played at Strathfield Raiders for a little bit as well, and then found my way back to St. John's when I got a bit older as well, and played there till I was 19. And
when did you start?
I was 6.
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah, I loved it. Like I couldn't I loved it, and then. I don't think I could have been ready quick enough for Mum and Dad. I used to be up and down the backyard. I can still remember the first house we lived at Campsie, the backyard. I'd still be able to probably go through every trace of step, every blade of grass, know where it is and stuff. So, and then so I was there from 6 to about 12, and I went to Strathfield for a few years there. A few of us moved. The whole team moved there, and I found my way back to St. John's when I was about 16. And had a few more years there till sort of once you go past under 19s, it's either A grade or there's a few Sydney comps you can join. And I went to another team then, so it was sad to leave, but it was I had to sort of thing. So yeah, sort of have to do it. Yeah.
13 years of playing through St. John's and then Strathfield Raiders and then back to St. John's, which is massive.
Yeah, and then I ended up at Guildford Owls. So how I ended up there, I think. My mate from St. John's I played with and went to school with. He ended up at Guildford. I think his manager got him there somehow or whatever. and they were sort of half looking for players. And he said, "Oh, I've got a mate that'll come down." And the coach he's the best bloke. I spoke to him the other day actually, and he's pretty laid back sort of fella. And he's just like, yeah, bring him down if he's any good. You go all right. He probably goes all right as well. And that's how he talked literally. And he brought me down, and I think it was 5 years there. The only thing that stopped it was COVID. That once COVID hit, they a lot of the teams didn't want to put money. The leagues clubs didn't want to put money into the teams anymore. So that's the only. Otherwise, I'd still be playing there today. I loved it there. It's a great club. Wow. Yeah, the Mighty Owls. So yeah. So yeah, I loved it there.
Awesome. And what position did you grow up playing?
Growing up, I was a bit everywhere, but I was mainly like second row or centre. Sometimes I played a bit of centre because I was a bit lighter, and then I started enjoying mum's food more and more, and then sort of made my way sort of second row prop, but a lot in the second row mainly. Yeah, so I enjoyed that.
Beautiful.
And still, that was the majority of my football where I played it.
Beautiful.
And so you've come up, and it's very much part of your life.
Yep.
Was there ever a point where you thought, maybe I've got what it takes to crack a first grade squad or to play at an upper level?
Probably not first grade, to be honest. I thought I could play sometimes in the lower grades when I was a bit younger, but a lot goes into it. You need a bit of luck, to be honest. Like a lot of people around it know you do need a bit of luck, and sometimes that can set you on your way. But I was lucky. Dad never really. He always kept my expectations low, but not in a way of like put me down. Yeah. But he wasn't the one like yelling or pushing. Like you couldn't get a word out of him at games. I think some of the parents were probably thinking like, "Is this guy all right?" He just sort of stand over away from everyone and just enjoy watching. He loved watching me play, and he still does. He still comes to my games and loves watching me play, but he doesn't love the riffraff and parents trying to push their kids to make teams and that. But there's a lot of good footballers out there. It's something you learn, especially as you get older. You just learn there's so many good players, and like I knew there was a lot of players a lot better than me, but it wasn't to the point where I didn't have confidence in myself. But I'm realistic. I know there's a lot of players better than me, but I still enjoy playing footy. Like I still like it as a hobby. I still play now. It's not all. It would have been nice. Obviously, what a job, you get to play footy for a living. But it wasn't. There wasn't really a time where I thought for sure. Like it was always I knew. Like I always studied at school, or sort of studied at school. It's a very loose term. But I always knew I had to apply myself somewhat at school, and then I went to uni and got my degree and stuff. But I was never I never thought first grade. I thought maybe some other stuff, but I wasn't. Yeah, I never thought probably first grade. No.
Okay, it's a very interesting thing. So you love the game. You didn't give it away. But you weren't playing in a bludger of a comp either.
Nah.
So the standard was still pretty good.
Yeah.
So there are some things there that you have to take into consideration in your day-to-day life to keep the balance right.
100%.
Do you want to talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, like after school, it's obviously a big step in terms of you've got to run your own race a bit. So you start going to work and study and stuff like that. And then the first year was still it was almost junior footy still. It's under 19. So I still trained for it. I actually trained more that year because I wasn't going to school, and I had a few months there where I was working like 3 days a week. And I was like, my mate's like, come on, let's go to the park and sort of train. And I wasn't a big trainer as a kid. I didn't really like it. And I sort of trained that year, and I'm like, this is actually, I enjoyed training a bit more. But then as I've gotten older now, there's phases, like uni gets busier as you go along, and then work, then you get married, you have kids, and it's all those steps along the way, things have changed. So the time for training, how much time you can spend in the gym or doing stuff like that sort of diminishes as life gets busier. But it is a juggling act, 100%. And you've got to have people around you to help support you if you need, like even little things like having meal, like when I was living at home, like a meal cooked for you straight away, or now if my wife cooks for me, like it's like, it saves time, things like that. And all that juggling is something that all footballers except first graders have to do. Even I see guys now that play first grade, even this year, but they're on part-time contracts. Like they're still working and then doing, like that's heaps harder than and that's why when you see it, like it popped up in the news a couple of times, guys talking about long days and that, and you think of those, guys in your head, like I'm not going to name them, but like they've been training part-time and they cracked first grade doing it that way. It's probably it's almost better for them in that sense. But it is tough. 100%.
It's almost a flashback to the way it used to be, where players would work a job, they'd have a trade, and it would be training either before or after work.
Correct. Yeah.
And so you're juggling that. You're like the modern day version of that.
Correct.
But then you're telling me that there are players that have made first grade and they're only on part-time contracts.
Yeah, 100%.
And they've still got to juggle their career, their families.
And even harder now because they're versing full-timers. So it's even in New South Wales Cup level, there'll be full-timers and part-timers. So there'll be guys dropping down that it's their full-time job to play footy. And then there's other guys that are just like me, like they're just working their job and they train. They've got to do weights a lot of the time in their own time. And then they train, say, 3 nights a week at least. And then they play. So it's and that's another example of how many good footballers there are. So there's ones that are doing it for a living, the others that aren't, that are versing these guys doing it for a living and sometimes smashing them. So, you know, like it's interesting. It's admirable. But a lot of guys you do find that they get to a certain age, they're like, I can't. Yeah. That's a lot for them.
So you're a loving husband and father, and you've got your own career.
Yep.
What does training look like for you?
Now, a lot.
That smile.
I must admit, the last couple of years. So I had my first child last year, in April last year. So near the start of the season. Thank you. And a lot less gym, I must say. I used to enjoy doing my gym work, but now it's like, I'll just go to training. Yeah. And if I can get up before work, I've found that's the most effective time to do it. But I'm not a mornings person, but either I'll try and sneak it in before I go to training or after training on the way home. If it's good, like a lot of the time, my daughter's asleep, so I'll just sneak it in after training. And then, so I'll wake up, go to work, and then usually go straight to training from work. And then after training, depending on how energetic I am, I might get in a quick gym session. If not, just go home, rest up, and get back on the horse again the next day.
Amazing. And what is your career path, by the way?
My career path?
Yeah.
I'm a podiatrist.
Podiatrist, there you go. So that's not something you just kind of fall out of uni and or fall out of high school, I should say, and just get into.
No.
There were many years of study and prac, and that requires a very big commitment.
Yeah. Well, funnily enough, I was training with a team over a summer. I was only 20 years old for like under 20s team. And I was on jury duty. I got called for jury duty a couple of times, and I wasn't contracted to the club. I was a bit of a pleb, like in all honesty. And I went to him and said, listen, I got jury duty. I wouldn't be able to come to training for like 4 weeks. And I was on like a train and trial. So like, I've got to train, otherwise I'm not getting picked in this team. And they're like, there's nothing we can do for you. So my mate goes, I'll enroll in summer school with you. So I was rocking up to Campbelltown, Western Sydney Uni in January doing, I think it was neuroanatomy or something, right? And me and my mate are like, why are we doing this again? And in my head, I'm like, why am I doing this? But it wasn't, sometimes I had to juggle. That's an example of juggling stuff. We had pracs, like 4 weeks, 6-week blocks of prac where you're doing the prac and you're not like, you can't work, obviously it's 9 to 5, and then you're trying to play and train and stuff. It wasn't easy at times, and it was a hard juggling act. And sometimes when you're in those environments, like university study and even the professional, like sort of career environments, they sort of do look at footy like what are you doing? Like, just here's your career, here's your job. But there's a lot that goes to it. Like, I enjoy having a hobby, and like that was my hobby. They have other hobbies that don't impact with their career. I felt like footy wasn't impacting with my career too much. Like, it was hard to balance it, but I felt it was good for me. I enjoyed it. It was a good outlet, and I liked it.
Nice. And was there ever a point where you considered doing footy full time, and or like a point where you might have got close to hitting first grade or something and thought maybe this is something I can do full time?
Nah, I enjoyed the part-time aspect of it. It was funny. Whenever I've had the chance to sort of partially take it more and more time into it, and like more of a like, I want to do this as a career. Anytime I've gone near that, I actually haven't enjoyed it as much. But then that was when I was younger, because I was young. Now looking back, like if I took that, I could have done it as a career. What a laugh! Like, you get to train, and like it's a lot of pressure. Don't get me wrong. Like, people don't respect that these guys are on 1 and 2 year contracts. Like, everything they do, their training, their playing, like it's their career on the line. Like, and some of them don't have a fallback. Like that's the other thing. I've always had a fallback with my career as a podiatrist. So I think subconsciously I always knew I can just be a podiatrist anyway. Like, and the sun's still going to come up and stuff. But these guys, like they're moving countries, like there's Kiwi kids that come over and stuff like that, or people really put it all on the line. So, but I've never done it per se, and that's probably partial. You've got to be hungry to make it. There's a lot of good players out there, so, but I've still enjoyed it all the way. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Nice. And you're currently signed with Hills Bulls.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah, it runs up whenever. November 1 or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I played at Hills Bulls.
Fair enough. Sorry, you're contracted this year at least.
I'm still young.
Whoops.
Maybe they're watching there. No, I'm joking.
Re-sign. No.
Yeah, re-sign.
And you won the Sydney Shield Grand Final this year with them.
Yeah, we did. We had a young team actually. When I first went there, I've been training a bit. I've been doing a bit of training with North Sydney, but I always knew I was going to end up back at Hills if I was realistic. And I went back and we had all these young kids. I'm like, I remember the first couple of weeks I thought, I don't know if this is for me. Like I think, I don't know, I might pull the pin sort of thing. And then as each week went on, and I really enjoyed the coach there, and as each week went on, I'm like, I'm actually enjoying them. Like they're pretty funny and stuff like that. And then I had a feeling, I thought, I reckon we could give this a real shake. But St. Mary's were at the top of the comp. And they were very good. They'd only lost, I think, 1 game in 2 years.
Yeah, for a long time. Yeah.
But I had a feeling we could maybe knock them off on the big day. And luckily enough, a few of the boys really showed up, and we got them. Got them, and we won. It was really good. Yeah, it was a really good experience. I enjoyed it. Loved the year. Yeah. Beautiful.
And that was streamed. That grand final was streamed on New South Wales Rugby League TV. Yeah. So. We had a little
watch.
Yeah, a little watch of the grand final.
Big fella got over the line.
He got over the line, and a little birdie told me that you've claimed it.
100%.
You claimed to try that.
I have teammates that will back me up. Referees did a great job. Honestly, they did. But the in-goal ref said try. The on-field ref said no try. So I went with him. But my mate came. One of the boys came running in, going, I got it down for a second, but it doesn't even matter. Like I should have scored with like no one on me. I came off 20 minutes in and I was cooked. And the coach comes up to me and goes, you think you could get a bit lower next time? So then we've played 20 more minutes, had half time, which is 15 minutes. And then there's like another 10 minutes is gone before he put me back out there. Before he put me out there, he goes, if you get near the line, you think you could go a bit lower this time? He was fuming, but luckily we won the game. I don't think I'd be laughing about it now if we didn't win the game. If I'm honest, I don't think he would be as well, but we could have a laugh about it now.
That's solid.
It was good. He was not happy.
Well, we're giving you the try here on this podcast, on the Against the Grain podcast officially. Josh Maree's name is part of the try scorers list, and we're adding
try all year it would have been.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Because you won by 4, didn't you?
No, but I only scored 1 try all year.
And it was in that grand final.
It was in that grand final.
And it didn't count.
Yeah.
But it counts here.
Counts.
Yeah, but
counts.
That's really all that matters.
100%. I know the truth. I saw it, no doubt. I know.
That's it. Yeah. Sticking by the truth. That's what we do here.
Yeah,
so.
that's it. 100%.
That's great. That's great. Well, earlier you mentioned that you've mentioned your wife a couple of times, and we spoke about you being a husband and a father. How has the married life been, and the fatherhood as well?
It's been great. Enjoyed every minute of it. It's we got married in May of 2021, went on our honeymoon, came back, and then that was when we all went into a very large lockdown for those few months there. So it was a bit different at the start, I'll be honest. Like we moved into a little 2-bedroom unit, and then that sort of happened, and then my wife fell pregnant pretty quick, and she had some pretty bad morning sickness. So it was a good early lesson of sacrifice and what marriage is really about, and it's straight away, and it was good. I think it grew me as a man. It was some comical times, like she was a bit sensitive to certain smells, so like if I'd be cooking or something, she didn't enjoy. If I was smoking up the place, burning food, like I was attempting to cook and I'm burning half the place down and stuff like that. But honestly, it was tough at the start there, coming back into the lockdown sort of as newlyweds, but then we got a great blessing with the pregnancy and then the birth of our daughter the next year, and it's just been like a bit of a blur ever since, to be honest. Like it's just once you have the baby, it's just like you're just in the moment every week. You're just taking it day by day, and it forces you to take everything day by day. So it's been great. Yeah, it's been good.
Awesome. How are you as a cook now? Have you gotten better?
A bit better.
Just, nice.
But
you don't burn the steak as much.
Not as badly. I actually got an outdoor cooktop so I can smoke outside and connect it to the extension cord. So
Beautiful.
Don't smoke everyone out.
That's amazing.
Smart.
Your we alluded earlier to your family and the closeness of your family. And you've started your own family now as well.
Yes.
So the family continues to grow.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing. And I think having said that, we've known each other outside of this podcast, one of the amazing memories I have of being introduced to your family is the big Sunday lunch.
Yeah.
And this is something that I want to just touch on a little bit, because I think we've lost that in our culture today, where people get older, they get busier, families start to grow apart because they've got their own things going on. But your family has maintained this Sunday lunch tradition where every Sunday at one of the houses, it's an absolute circus.
Yeah.
There are people eating and drinking and laughing and arguing and playing touch in the backyard, playing snooker. And it's just a beautiful thing to see. You want to speak to the importance of just community and family and being together, and how important it is in this day and age, this culture we live in.
On a Sunday as well.
On a Sunday.
Yeah. Well, if you ask probably my aunties and uncles and my parents, when I think at one stage we were doing it weekly when we were kids, but both on my mum's side and my dad's side on the one day. And it got a lot. So they somehow drew it up where my mum's side was on 1 week and my dad's side, and all the other families would do their other side of the family on the second week. So it was alternating weeks. So it was a bit less, because I think like as kids now having and seeing like my nephews and that, like I don't know how good 4-year-olds back to back every Sunday, no naps and stuff. It would have been some tough stuff. So they did that, and it's like looking back, all that hard work they did for us in turn, like even though it's hard work, but obviously it's leisure still, but it's hard work for them. It's so good. It gives you so many memories as kids, and it's sort of easier to obviously not do that stuff, like just lounge around, and people lose that sense of family, or someone doesn't quite get along with someone, or a bit awkward or that, but you just move past it. Like they would have, like I'm sure them growing up, they would have had little disagreements of some sort. I don't know about them, but I'm sure, someone be a bit off here and there, but we never knew as kids, and we never will know. And now I've got so many first cousins that I'm close with because of that. So it is great, but it can become circus-like. Yeah, it used to be some pretty epic games of touch footy, or that turned into tackle footy. that turned into generally me and my cousin Paul, actually, generally be me trying to knock his head off, and then
just bashing each other.
And my grandfather stepping in, or someone stepping in to. I was the one that always had to get called out of a bit of a temper as a kid, so I was always the one that got dragged off.
Stop sending your cousin to hospital.
It was, well, he's not going to play for you anymore if you're going to keep playing like that. It was probably a good point. He probably wouldn't, but he kept turning up for some reason. I don't know if that's I don't know if that's a reflection on him or me, or a bit of both. Or
you were copping the send-offs.
He just kept coming back for more. Yeah,
I think that in the frantic kind of culture we live in, I think one of the ways to reclaim happiness and fulfillment is, especially for us as Christians, is to reclaim Sunday
100%
as a day for God firstly, and a day for family.
Yeah.
And if we make Sunday a very distinct day of the week, which is what God had intended from the beginning, it be the day of rest, the day of worship, the day of family, then those other 6 days of the week, no matter what you're going through in life, they're bearable.
Yep.
You get through it, and that's the day of genuine, it's a day for God, for worship, for family. And I think if we can get that right in our culture, we'll start to build up again.
Yeah.
We'll start to realize what's important in life.
Well, it's funny you mention it, because before, when I mentioned going to youth mass, I'd enjoy playing. So a lot of the senior footy you play on a Sunday, and then I'd go to mass after, and it felt leisurely, like a relax. But the last couple of years, like I've gotten into the habit, I go to mass in the morning, mainly because, you know, you got young kids and stuff. And a few of the games this year, I remember saying to my wife before I was going, like, one day actually, my brother at his parish had like a big family day, like a big fair. He had all these rides, and a few of my cousins brought all their little kids and that. And then about an hour and a half in, I had to go to play. And in my head, I'm like, oh, this is the last thing I want to do is go play footy. Like, I'm enjoying this. Everyone's sitting around, like faith and community. And then in my head, it made me really think, maybe like, you know, it's probably like, it's not really, I'm not resting. And it's something as I've gotten older, like we played all our home games, our team on a Sunday, and I'll be honest, I didn't enjoy it, the Sunday, like that aspect of it. And it's funny, guys in the team that aren't even remotely practicing any Christianity, they don't like Sunday games as well. No one likes Sunday game because you don't get that day. Now, some of them it's because they can't go out on Saturday night, but which is part of it. But even if they're going out, the fact that they have Sunday to themselves and they don't even realize what they're saying, like, and you sort of pick up on it, like, oh, I wish we could just not play Sunday. They can relax for the rest of the week. And even the older guys that aren't really like going out, they've got families and that, like even they don't enjoy Sunday games. And it's funny to see that, but they're probably not even realizing. Well, I'm looking at it going, they probably just want a day of rest where they don't have to run into other human beings and get absolutely hammered and stuff like that. They probably just want to chill out with their family or friends or whoever they're close with. And so, yeah, I think growing up, always we had Saturday comps as juniors, but now you see more and more comps doing Sundays. And I was talking to my sister about it the other day. Her eldest boy, they're looking to get him into sports, and she doesn't want to do Sunday for that reason. They want to go to their church. They want to have, you know, they've got family things on. They want to come to my mum and dad's or her in-laws, like their grandparents on the other side or something like that. And a lot of competitions are just going that way. People work 6 days a lot. Yeah. And it's a society norm. Whereas I remember growing up as a kid, funnily enough, when we moved from St. John's to Strathfield, we went from Canterbury comp to the Balmain comp. The Balmain comp played on Sundays, and a few of the Islander boys didn't come with us because they spent all day at church on a Sunday. So they didn't come with us. And some of their parents of the boys that even came with us, they used to sort of carpool because the parents would be at the church and they wouldn't come see some of their sons' games because it was like they strongly recognized like Sunday's a day they sort of, I don't know exactly how it works, but they hung out at church for hours, and like maybe a bit different to Catholics. So we go to, like we're supposed to go to mass, obviously. I was like, you can sort of be in and out, like for lack of a better term, like an hour and a half, but they're there for hours upon hours. And it was a big part of, but I didn't realise at the time, I was way over my head. But looking back, you realise that I think the All Blacks didn't play on Sundays back in the day as well, stuff like that. So that's all part of it, I think. Yeah.
And that's a characteristic of, like you mentioned, a society, like Australian society and probably Western society in general, that's forgotten about God, or that's almost godless now. Is that Sunday is just another day. So they're like, why don't we do footy on Sunday instead? Because when I was playing footy when I was younger, it was Saturday games as well. And then when I learned that they were playing on Sundays, I was like, that's really strange. But that's just like almost a symptom of the society, of a changing society from a godly to a godless.
Always the senior footy was always on a Sunday just because of ground availabilities, but the fact that the juniors are starting to play on Sundays is unusual. But I know the para comp, I think from under 6s still to under 19s, I think they're still exclusively Saturday, I think. But but some of it's ground availability stuff, obviously, but obviously some of it's society stuff as well. It's more accepted. Everyone's like, oh, you're playing on Sunday, it's not a big deal.
Sport is one of those things that I think we're all just kind of drawn to, no matter what the code is. And it was probably one of the motivating factors of Anthony and I doing this show was that kind of intersectionality between faith and sport. It really has become a second religion and is to a lot of people. But just kind of trying to get that balance right and know what we can and can't do, or what's going to be a challenge for us. And we've seen it. We've seen it in some of the guys that we've had on the show already. That sometimes it can be a restriction to the way you're living your faith. Other times it can get in the way. You know, if it was funny, I just go back to Josh Aloe from the other week, and him saying that when he chose not to don that Manly Pride jersey, there were a lot of players on his own team that couldn't understand why you're not doing this.
Yeah.
And he made a distinction that, yeah, for some of these guys, football is their God.
Yeah.
But for him, it wasn't.
Yeah.
And there's just that clash there.
Yeah.
And trying to be understanding of it. And
yeah, it was interesting, but you found like he didn't speak about it much, but they fell off a cliff after that. I don't think they won a game. But it was funny how he touched on in the off season, he got to sit down and hash out his points in deep. So if like, I understand how it went like that, because these players, like, it is hard to get. A lot of them have to work so hard. There's a few guys that are just freaks. They'll get there no matter what. But so many of them have to work so hard to get in that position. And then I think they were in and around the top 8. And then after that, they just bottomed out.
Yeah.
And they're probably looking, going, well, if that didn't happen, we would have bottomed out. But then once they get to know him as an individual, so they removed that 7 Christians or 7, like, I'm assuming, I think they were all Christians.
Yeah.
Like took this stance. Once they got to know him as an individual, he spoke about his life to them probably and opened up about it. Then you might not agree with him still. They probably don't agree with him still, but they accept it more, and then they got back on the wagon, and now no one's spoken about it since really. But for the rest of that year, it followed him. Yeah, really heavily. But
yeah, because it was a crucial game in their the making of the top 8.
And then after that, they didn't win another game. They didn't look like winning another game, to be honest. They struggled. So yeah, that's just goes to show you.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to bring this back up, and only because I think it'll be a really good thing to talk about with you as a practicing Catholic and as a married man. Yeah. Now, obviously, Father Ben is not married to a woman. He's married to the church, I guess.
Good to see you hash that out well.
Yeah. I was like, got to word that properly. And I'm not married yet. God willing, I will be eventually.
I think someone else is as well, but continue. Yeah.
How slow is he? Anyway, no, we don't have to add any more pressure or anything.
Surely that's not worse than the pressure you get from all the old ladies.
No, it isn't.
No,
it isn't.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, true. But it's
Can you explain to everyone at home what the pressure's like? Or
I would rather not go into it. No, I'm just kidding.
A bit traumatic, eh?
Yeah, it's always traumatic. I mean, I don't know if it's a Lebanese thing, but
100%. I think it's all
like
sort of cultural
thing, where you get the pressure of.
Yeah, I think you hit a certain age. I was actually talking about it the other day. I think it's also the people around you. So if you've got married siblings, which you do, it doesn't help. Whereas if a few of the others, the older ones, aren't married and stuff, you can sort of hide behind it a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
But then when dominoes start to fall, I've been teasing my brother-in-law lately because a few of his cousins have been getting married, and he's sort of starting to get a bit of heat. So it's enjoyable. I just heap. Like, I was the first one out of my wife's. Like, my wife was the first one out of all her cousins to get married. So now I can just sit back and I join in with all the old aunties. And just hurry up, get married. I love it. I just sit back and let.
Well, that's what I'm getting here is that you're an old Lebanese woman.
Yeah.
Now, that's it.
And that's why.
Keep it civil. Appreciate it. Keep it civil. Go on. No, but seriously, I mean, we thought it would be a really beautiful thing to have a chat a little bit into marriage and fatherhood with you, just because we know that obviously you're not you wouldn't be, as anyone else wouldn't be, a perfect husband or father, but we know that you're striving to be a perfect husband and father. So you mentioned a little bit earlier sacrifice, the sacrifice that you have to go through as a man, and as a husband and father particularly. What does that sacrifice look like on a day-to-day basis?
Day-to-day. Well, anyone that knows me knows when I'm tired, I'm not the best person to be around. So when you're not married, and well, when you don't have kids, you can sleep for however long you want. It doesn't really matter. And then I personally think my wife was stressing deep down about me not sleeping as much as I used to. That, geez, I'm not going to be any fun to be around. And still, when I get tired, I can be not the best person to be around. But I think, honestly, that was the biggest thing for me, not sleeping as well, and learning that, you know what, you missed an hour of sleep or whatever, but it doesn't matter. Like too bad. Like, so many fathers before you have done that. So many, like, I don't get up and breastfeed in the middle of the night or stuff like that, but that sacrifice you make to, you know, not be impatient with, especially now as my daughter gets older, she's getting a bit naughty. She'll chuck a tantrum, you turn the TV on or off, or don't let her do something dangerous. And when you're tired, sometimes you just feel like going, like yelling or something, but then you realize, like, no, I can't do that, and sort of fighting that and sort of trying to not be so self-centered. I think having kids, or firstly getting married and then having children, you die to yourself a little bit for the other person, but you learn it more and more as time goes on, and you get better and better at it the more you do it. Like any good virtue, the more and more you practice it, the better you get at it. So I'm 2.5 years married, so you can learn off a lot of good people out there, and you just get better and better as time goes on. So
and I remember your best man at your wedding.
Yes.
In his speech, which was,
you're going to mention, he did well.
I mean, honestly, I was going to say it's one of the best man speeches
Don't tell him that again. His head's already this big.
You know what? Let it get bigger, man. It was on point. No, but he did mention that you have your parents' marriage to look up to.
Yeah.
He did give your parents a bit of a shout out in it, and as an example of what a healthy marriage looks like.
Yeah.
So when you say that you have plenty of examples, you don't have to look much further, although it's beautiful to look even further, but you don't have to look much further than
100%. I think I spoke, like in the intro, I spoke about it a bit. Like, I had a great upbringing. Like, as you get older, you realize some people aren't that lucky. Like, things happen that you wouldn't even know about when you're a kid, or even as you get older, like, you learn more and more how families can have some issues and stuff like that. And I was lucky enough, mum and dad provided a really good home for me and my brothers and sisters. But looking at them, looking at their parents, like immigrating to Australia on a boat. My grandmother, mum's mum, was 8 months pregnant, gave birth to my eldest uncle on a boat. Now, like, we're too worried to move. Like, I was looking at property with my wife, like, where we're going to live, and like, oh, that's 20 minutes away from our parents. It's like 20 minutes away. They got on a ship for 6 weeks. Like, me and Dad were talking about it the other day. They got on a ship for 6 weeks. They knew when they were stepping on that ship, they aren't coming back. Like, they're not going back, most likely.
Yeah.
They're never going to see maybe their mum and dad again, all that stuff. And then, like, I'm worried about moving a 20-minute commute away from my parents. Like, and when you put it like that, you're like, geez, you're an idiot. Like, you listen to yourself, you're like, how dumb are you? But I think even looking at them, like, our parents obviously sacrificed a lot, but essentially my grandparents probably sacrificed the most, and did it the hard yards for us. Now I get to go to university, play football, and like, I'm living quite comfortably, like that. That's like that. He wouldn't, like, my grandfather wouldn't have been able to. Like, he was working, he's not able to, you know, play. I'll just play footy as a hobby. It's football. Like, no, I got 7 kids. I need to go to work. Like, you know, both my grandmothers never worked as well. So and people think, oh, that's just a thing of back in the day. Like, now you need dual incomes. I'm pretty sure it would have helped if they had dual incomes back in the day for both my grandparents, my grandfathers. Like, the way, like, people diminish that, like, oh, but it was because of cost of living back in the day. Yes and no. Like, both my parents are 1 of 7, and I think they both grew up in 3-bedroom houses. So, like, now, like, everyone's got to have their own room for themselves and stuff like that. So it's like, obviously I'm not putting down, like, there are cost of living stuff now, and I don't want to come across like I'm being insensitive to that, but people did sacrifice a lot for the lives we get now. We have, like, I'm blessed to have a very, very good life because of those people before me that paved the way. And in their marriages, they were married long time. like both my grandparents were married till like the others passed away and stuff like that. So they're great marriages to look to as well, for sure.
Amen. Amen. And marriage was a lot more back in the day. It was more understood, I guess, or at least respected, that marriage was till death do you part.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's another dynamic that's probably even getting married at certain ages. I think actually now more people are getting married probably a bit younger than 20 years ago. It's not quite as unusual getting married a bit younger, but I know, I think I got engaged 24, 25, like I was turning 25 that year. I knew a few people that were a bit taken back, but it doesn't really matter. Like I don't care. Not in a rude way. Like it's just a matter of fact that like I know what I'm doing. And if I don't know what I'm doing, ignorance is bliss. Like I don't know. Like I don't know what to say to them. But like that sort of stuff I think people do overplan that stuff a bit, and then I think they become so far into overplanning that then when things do go wrong, maybe sort of it's normalized to get out. But all that stuff, I think, like I don't think about like sort of divorce rates and stuff like that. I'll be honest, I haven't looked into that too much, mainly because I've been surrounded by so many good marriages within my family, and I think I've been lucky in that sense. So it doesn't cross my mind a lot, and of the examples I see where things haven't gone right, like I feel like it's a lot of stuff leads up to that, and there's a lot of mitigating factors. Don't get me wrong, sometimes I look at some things that happen, I'm like, oh, maybe if the faith was at the center or stuff like that, maybe it could have helped. But then there's just some scenarios where I just don't understand what's happened. Like it's beyond my understanding. I'm not going to understand everything in the world, how and why and how it happens. But yeah, it is an interesting observation for sure.
Yeah. I think in the Christian context of what marriage is, it needs to be properly understood and prepared for
sure.
It's not just, as some people might make the claim, a piece of paper, or it's not something that you just slide into for convenience. That element of sacrifice that you raised earlier, Anthony, is at the forefront, because we sacrifice our egos, we sacrifice our pride and all the things that make us comfortable for the good of the other person that you're wedding yourself to for the rest of your life.
100%.
The moment we start thinking about me, instead of we, it's like it falls apart. And that is the foundation of every marriage that doesn't work, because one of the parties has stopped thinking about the other. Now, there might be things going on in someone's life where they think, no, I have to think about this for myself. So we're not making blanket or generalized statements 100%. Here, but in the context of a Christian marriage, that's how it does make sense. Yeah. Christ is wed to his church. He dies for his bride, and from that life comes forth. So Anthony, you mentioned earlier that I'm not married, and no, I'm not. Not to a woman, and I'll never have a biological family. Yes. But I am married to the church, and I act in the person of Christ whenever I am dispensing the sacraments, namely the Mass and confession and the anointing. But it's one of those things that we have to remember. The moment I start thinking, or I stop thinking rather, about my bride, is the moment I just become a bachelor and I just live for myself.
100%.
So I need to be pouring my life out for others the way you pour your life out for your wife and your kids. And that is at the core of what Christian marriage is sacrifice. So it is easy to talk about divorce rates and all sorts of things, but it goes a lot deeper than that. And I think for us in our context of talking about faith, it's just important to remind people that yes, in the context of Christianity, love is a choice. It's not an emotion. It's not a feeling. It's a choice. I choose to love you every day with all of your wacky, idiosyncrasies and
leaving shoes all over the house.
That's right. All of that. None of that stuff is going to stop me from loving you. It's a choice to love.
I think what you touched on as well, I heard something the other day pleasure is temporary, joy is eternal. And I think so many people get maybe told that pleasures are like the other way around, but any great joy a lot of the time comes with a lot of sacrifice and hard work, and like at the end of the day, marriage is hard work and there's a lot of sacrifice. And some days, like kids and marriage and that, like you're going to have some days where it's not that fun, but the joy you have on those big occasions, or when you sit down after a great day, and like there's nothing that'll replace it. It's great.
Yeah. And I just want to do a little bit of I guess scriptural study just quickly, only because when I learnt this, I was like, oh, like this is what I want my marriage to be. And I'm not by any means perfect in my relationship either. I have my own struggles and things, and we both do. But so I just want to sort of say that as sort of a prelude, just to make sure that this isn't coming from a place of, this is what you guys need to do because I'm doing it well.
You're not coming from a place of self-righteousness.
Of self-righteousness, yeah, that's right. And it's Ephesians 5, which is one of the readings that you can pick for your wedding day mass, and most people don't pick it, and it's just because of I guess the English translation doesn't make it sound as good as people would like it to be, but the meaning behind it is incredible. So Ephesians 5 is the reading is the wives, be subject to your husbands, or be submissive to your husbands, and straight away people are like, no, stay away from that. Stay away from that. But and like we could go into this for a long time, because in the context of like Adam and Eve in Genesis 2 and of Christ on the cross and things like that, it adds beauty to this reading. But for the sake of not dragging it on too long, the word for, so it's Ephesians, St. Paul's letters, who completely understands the context of Roman soldiers and things like that. So, and he speaks like later on about putting on the armor of God and things like that. So the word for submissive or subject in that verse is the ancient Greek word for it is hupotasso, which is a term. It's a military term, which is used for people to put themselves under, for soldiers to put themselves under the mission of a superior, typically a general. And so what St. Paul is saying, firstly, in the context of the whole reading, he starts off by saying, be subject to one another, which we always tend to forget. But then he says, wives, be subject to your husbands, which means place yourselves under the mission of your husbands. And then what is the husband's mission? He goes on to say, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. And how did Christ love the church? He died for her. And so what St. Paul is saying is, wives, place yourself under the mission of your husband, because their mission is, as man's mission is, to serve, love, and protect you, and to die to themselves, like you mentioned earlier, dying to yourself every day for your bride. And that's what God does for us. God, the bridegroom, does for us, the church, the bride. And we're called as the bride, and so is a wife, called to receive that love and that sacrifice, and then to reciprocate it. So to receive it and then pass it back, basically to the husband. And that, when I learned that, I was like, oh my gosh, okay, now this reading sort of makes it a bit more sense. And there's beauty in it. And again, if we could go into the context of Old Testament and things like that, the beauty just piles on. But obviously, you know, like you mentioned, some days you wake up, it's just not as easy to be the joyful person that you, or the happy person that you know, you can be at other times, or sometimes it's not as easy. Like you don't wake up every day and go, oh, I can't wait to serve my wife and kids and things like that. Like some days you wake up and you're not so bothered and things like that.
Yeah, you know? 100%. Or like some mornings you wake up and you think, oh, that poo hasn't leaked through that again. I could be not bothered changing that or something like that. 100% you have those days. But like you said, when you look at it, like when you step back and look at your wider mission, those days sort of fade into the background. You don't even remember them. Like, I know those days have happened, but it's not like I remember them vividly in my mind, sort of thing. So I think if you keep Christ in the center, it does help.
That's right.
Sure.
That's right. Yeah. So I just wanted to share that just because I thought, it was obviously a beautiful
on
message.
That point, on that reading, it is funny, like readings, like I think you spoke about it, like I've heard it spoke about, like only God can judge me, and how that gets misused by pop culture. And it's also, I found with those YouTubers, those like, I don't know how to describe them, like the Andrew Tate type YouTubers, how they sort of misused that sort of like, you know, women being submissive and all that. Obviously he has a different religious background, and maybe it's drawn from that a little bit, but I feel like sometimes that stuff, like, it has a hint of truth, so then people use that hint of truth in it, and it becomes part of a good lie and stuff like that. But that, I reckon that gets misused these days a lot as well, and it's very dangerous and pretty average. But it made me think of those sort of people straight away. But I can think of other stories where I know people have joked with family members about using that reading, and the sort of the family member like clamours up thinking of all the people are going to think. But when you, like you said, when you get to know and understand the beauty of it, it's nothing like that at all. It's headship, like the we say the man is the head of the house, but not in the sense of dominating or you know, laying down his life,
and everyone else is a slave. It's rooted in service. It's headship rooted in service,
servant leadership. That's right.
That's right. Yeah.
I think one of the things to touch on especially is all of this stuff sounds exhausting. It does. It really does. To get up each and every day. I don't need to be a married man to a woman and have a biological family to understand that marriage is exhausting, because I have my own marriage. I'm married to the church. And so I'm looking after a community of believers each and every week that all have their own needs, that all call at inconvenient times, that want me to be available for their every single need. And people think Father just gets up and says mass of a morning and that's his day. I'm not here to, you know, whinge and moan about that, because I love everything I do. But the importance of continuously denying oneself, but growing spiritually, constantly working at your faith and your relationship with God and what God is asking of me each and every day. And so I'd like to just shift a little bit now and know that we've always got to be constantly working on things. So you and Anthony a couple of years ago actually did do something for yourselves to work on how you were both as Christian men in your discerning your own respective vocations. You actually made a commitment to actually do something that may have helped you both press the restart button on your spiritual life. Maybe Anth, you can introduce it, and then the two of you can just bounce off each other for a little while as to how that all worked.
Sure. What we did was there's a program known as the Exodus program, and typically it's a 90-day program, but we did the Exodus 40. The
we
Lenten
did.
program.
So for everyone watching at home thinking, they did the watered down version. they did the soft version. It's still up.
It's extremely tough. That's right. We did do the watered down version of the 40 days Lent, during Lent. And what it is basically a living a very simple life without social media, without technology. It's really a lot of asceticisms, or a lot of sacrifices that you make in terms of the food that you eat, or how many times or how much you eat during the day, and things like that. Not going on the internet, or not using your phone for anything other than study or work, or phone calls and messages necessarily.
And it was any technology, I think.
Any technology. Yeah, that's right.
Did we do cold showers?
It was cold showers. I
did them. I don't know. I couldn't remember if it was a rule. That was,
it was cold showers. It was not listening to music unless it uplifts your soul to God. So only listening to the music that lifts your soul, to God. That's things like that. Exercising 3 times. Anyway, there was all these lists of things, and what it encourages is for us to let go of the vices in our lives, so those bad habits in our lives, and to replace them with good habits, or with virtues, sorry. So we did that. We did it in a group with your brother,
Yes.
who is also a Catholic priest.
Yes.
Sorry, I just introduced that myself. But
Our leader, yes.
Yeah.
He was our team leader, I think.
He was,
Yes,
our
yes,
team
yes.
leader, and we had another person, one more
Yes, we did.
in there,
Yeah.
one more in there.
So I couldn't be paired up with my brother, so I got paired up with you.
That's right. Yeah.
That's
So
more-
against your
What a
will.
what a joy.
Again.
So you
Yeah,
guys,
so what-
you guys would have had a weekly meeting together.
Yeah. So Josh and I were anchors for
Correct.
the Exodus
Yes.
program, which your anchor is someone who holds you accountable through it. So you have your group,
Yeah.
but the two of you are discussing daily how your day went, what were your struggles, where did you go all right in, things like that, just to give you some motivation and to hold you accountable for each of the items that we had to follow.
Yeah.
And so Josh and I, were anchors. Josh, to be fair, was a much better anchor than I was. That's one of the things every time I've done Exodus I've struggled with is remembering to just check in and see how you're going.
Yeah.
Josh would send me messages just in the morning, and he'd just be like morning, have a good day, or something like, or smash it out today.
Yeah.
Like something like that. And it was such motivation. Like you were actually a top anchor.
Yeah, thank you.
You probably can't say the same.
Nah, you were good. I'm only Steve. Nah, it was good. It was good to have someone sort of similar age and stuff like that, and check in. Obviously, just like one-on-one as well as part of a group. It's nice, and then you become closer when you obviously do something like that.
Yeah.
And like most people that know they do Exodus, like it's not particularly easy, and some days you do fall, but it was nice to fall and just like say it to the person, not like try and muff around it, or I fell because I was tired that day, can you give me a chance? Like it's like you say to the person, I stuffed up today, and it wasn't good. And then that person says, like don't do it again, but like, get back up and get going again, rather than trying to come up with some excuse or trying to do find a path to why you didn't do it well. So I know particularly for me, what it opened me up to was probably phone use, because I remember I was like, phone use, that's not that big of a deal. But then like you realize how many times a day you just look at the thing for 30 seconds, you're like, this is a pretty bad habit actually. And then like as it went further and further, I'm like, this is weird. Like I did not realize I was doing this so often. So then I realized you could put the time stuff on them and that, and I did that for a while after, and it helped me sort of wean off it and stuff like that. But it was good to open up and looking at stuff like that. And then I think that the hour of sitting prayer, I think sometimes you get to the end of the day and like an hour like of sitting prayer when you probably like, oh, I'll do it a bit later, and then you get to the end and you're like, oh, maybe half an hour, and then and then you're like, oh no, I said an hour. I think that was also another one, especially after sort of longer days, or if life was changing a bit, and you're like, oh, but I'm tired or something like that, and it's like, well, you should have made it a priority and stuff like that. So I think you get into habits of maybe a bit of morning prayer as well when you first wake up.
You're right, because it does, like I struggled in the same thing or similar things to you, in that the hour of prayer, like prioritizing that, which is good practice, like to prioritize a solid hour of personal prayer, or at least 20 minutes of meditation, like that. That's tough. Like to just sit in silence, like to quiet your mind is so tough.
Well, that's another habit I felt like I picked up on. Like I'd go to work, sometimes it'd be the radio or something on at work. I'll go to the gym, have music on, come home, dinner, then TV or something like that. And it's like, when do I ever actually just nothing? And I found I developed the habit of being in the car without sound on. So then sometimes I'd get into like prayer while I'm driving, but I'm still doing something else. I'm still driving my car. It's still on the run sort of thing. But to completely be like, nothing's going on here, I realized how little I was. Had nothing going through my head, and then when you sit, you're like, how much better it is. And I feel like that's why people enjoy holidays sometimes, because you go on a holiday and you're like, you get time to yourself, you get extra time, and you're like, and you start to think and
You enjoy the peace and quiet.
Yeah,
I
you
think.
sort of detach yourself. And,
Yeah.
Can I speak to those 2 points very quickly?
Yes.
The first is accountability as men. And that was one of the, I think, motivations of the Exodus program, was to get men to step out of their shells, because sometimes we can be very individualistic and she'll be right, or I'll just do it on my own, or there's no need for help or to ask or to cry out if I'm struggling. And so Exodus brings you out of that, where you are accountable. And then I stuffed up.
Yeah.
To actually say I stuffed up. Because look at the way the culture is now. No one likes to admit that they've failed, or they've had a setback, or there is a hurdle that they were unable to overcome. Everyone presents the best version of themselves. It's rife on social media, even by looks, filters, this, that, and the other, being able to, construct the perfect sentence, or have a look at my perfect life. And I've oftentimes gone after this in church. Like, come to church on a Sunday, put your happy faces on and pretend you're living the perfect life. Yeah. God doesn't want that.
Yeah.
God wants you to bring your brokenness and your suffering and everything to him so that he can heal you. So I think that's a great thing that Exodus does. But the other thing that you've just both mentioned is, as men, we can also make excuses. So you've spoken about how prayer would be hard, and I've just gotten used to getting quiet in the car, but I'm still driving. So how can you properly enter into prayer? So we're making excuses constantly on how we're going to achieve what's been asked of us, and still then you're not doing it properly. So doesn't it show you the challenge that the spiritual life presents?
Yeah.
And how much of a problem we have as men just sitting still and clearing our minds. And that plays into prioritizing. So you still have your job, your training, your family, all of it. And then you got to sit in silence and pray, which arguably is the most important part of your day,
100%.
your relationship with God.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to figure out ways where, maybe I'll just do half an hour today.
Yeah.
So isn't it profound? So it's a great program that you both entered into, and you both obviously learnt quite a bit.
Yeah, I think it's more like I said before, like you touched on the half an hour or the car or something. You think you've got good habits. I'm better than the person next to me. Like, you might become a bit self-righteous. Like, I don't listen to the radio and I do a bit of prayer and this and that. But then like they shine something else on your life that you're not doing that well, and it's like, but not in a shameful way. But it's in a way like you've got to be better, and not like, don't accept, like, keep striving, but not in a way where, I'm not like, Anthony's not telling me, today I had a snack when I wasn't supposed to, and I've just given him a spray. Like, it's accountability, but then teaching each other to strive and be better. But I think a lot of times in society, you even find it in football. Like, I used to be like this when I was younger, and I still am like this sometimes. Even in footy, like, sometimes you try and give someone advice, or you watch a coach give a younger kid advice. And especially I found when I was 20, if a 28 or 30-year-old came up to me and said, hey, I reckon you could do this, this, and this, like this, generally I'd be like, yes, sir. Like, I'd be scared and like would listen, because you're like, oh, that guy's got a bit of wisdom. He's probably been through the same thing. Now, like, you go up to some 20-year-old, hey, mate, probably do this a bit better. I know what I'm doing. Like, I've got a manager or something like that. And you're like, you see like that pride and that stuff, and you're like, oh, geez, like, I was probably like that a bit as well. So you're patient with them, but it goes to show how sometimes you're just blind to a few things yourself. But if you take a step back, look back, Anthony's telling me something for the betterment of me, because he loves me and wants me to be better, willing the good of me. Then you take it back. If you strip it back, you're like, oh, that person just wants good. That coach just wants me to be the best player I can, or even the best person. They might see something in your personality. And then if you step back and like take your angry head off, then it's like, oh, maybe they're right. And you learn so much more like that, I think, for sure. Yeah,
and it shows the importance of good community, and especially good authentic friendship. Yeah. Is that it's not just you share similar interests, and so it's easy to talk about all the, like, it's nice to have small talk and things, but then you can also, good authentic friendship is having good substantial conversation that makes you a better person, and to hold yourselves accountable and to say, well, like you're falling a little short in this. Like let's like we can try and pick you up here, and let's go at it together. And that's something that Exodus brings, like you said. Yeah. So you know, you weren't spraying me for something I struggled in. I wasn't spraying you. You know, it's just okay. Like we're struggling in this. Let's try and be better tomorrow. And this is how we can be better.
And it's still, like we said, it's still being firm. It's not. It's not sort of wish-washy. Like
it's not everyone gets a participation award.
No keeping scores. I was listening to a podcast the other day. No keeping scores till 13 or something like that. Like that. That's a symptom of it. Like I know it's not a direct correlation, but it is that attitude of like, well, you doing your best. God asks you to do your best for sure. But if you're not doing your best or you weren't good, like you need to know sometimes.
Yeah.
And that especially between men. Between each other to hold other men accountable. There is something unique about that for sure. I think we can both speak like if your dad held you accountable for something, there is something about it, or a grandparent or grandfather, there is something like, or a brother or a close mate. There is 100%. There is something special about it.
Yeah, for sure. And for those watching, I do really encourage after proper discernment, after considering carefully and praying about whether you can practically do it, whether it's something that you want to do and things. The Exodus program is something that I highly encourage. I know for women there's an equivalent to the Exodus program, which is called Fiat, I believe, and that this program it does wonders. It really does strip you of the vices that you have if you go into it properly and you, like Josh mentioned, you do your best in following the asceticisms and things like that. Honestly, the first time I ever did Exodus, and it was the proper Exodus 90 program from memory, there was something that I was really struggling with, and it was that not many people know about. It was an addiction that I had, and because of Exodus and a number of other things, and through the grace of God, I was able in that 90 days to strip myself of that addiction, and it was probably the most freeing experience I've had, and each time I've benefited from it in some way. So it is something that I do highly encourage if you are able to do it, and obviously in a position to just look up the program, the Exodus program or the Fiat one, and get a grip going.
And like any spiritual exercise, you can go one of two ways when you finish it. You can fall back into old habits and think, I'm free of this, I no longer have to do it. Or you can learn something from it and continue, maybe not to the intensity of some of the practices, but continue on and better your life and grow in virtue. Just quickly, from that experience, what did you take and continue to run with? Or what did you learn?
I learned the phone use one for sure. So I was actually speaking to someone the other day, my cousin's husband, and he was talking about like trying this thing where you try an hour a day, a day a week, and a week a year without your phone, and trying to do it. And we were talking about when would you do that week a year, when would it be easiest? And we were saying maybe Christmas, New Year would be a good time, sort of like that little break then. But I have tried a few times just leaving my phone at home on a Sunday. So go to mass, leave my phone at home, and come back to it in the night. And I've done it a couple of times, and I don't know what it is. It does feel good. But that's the biggest one I noticed that creeps back in the easiest. So I'm more aware of that for sure, 100%. Okay. Where that's the one, like the prayer was great for sure, 100%. But it's there. Like I know I've got to pray every day. Whereas the phone one can creep back in without and start gripping you without you really noticing. Like, you can have it on you and you'd be like, why am I don't even want to look at it. Like but it's screaming at me. I don't know what it is. Like stuff like that. So I think that's the one that stuck with me a bit.
Okay.
Cold showers went out the window.
Same.
If you see me hop in an ice bar, like if there's ever an ice bar, you won't catch me. I'm in the shower hiding something.
That's the dreaded one. That's horrific.
But you know what? I spoke to people that I did get used to it during it, and I didn't mind it, but it wasn't like I was like, I'll keep doing it. It makes me feel good. It made me feel great. It'd wake me up. It was unbelievable. as soon as I had the first couple of warm showers, I was like, I
didn't share in that. I hated them all throughout.
I got used to it by the end, but it's funny. There's like a big movement, health movement with cold showers and fasting actually, and it's funny how like you see these things and you're like, oh, that's interesting. Like all these effects of fasting, all these effects of cold immersion therapy, and it's like, oh, that's interesting. And it's, but then you just like you just keep it in the back of your head. It's interesting observation with all that stuff, but especially the fasting, and obviously you see all the like modern day meditation stuff and yoga retreats they call them and stuff like that. Obviously, like you can see people doing any effort to erase any form of religion attached to any of these practices because we're
spiritual, not religious.
Like and they just, no matter what, like you know what, some of these people might have some really poor experiences with something in their childhood, or so you don't want to like make fun of that, but it's more like you do see some people like it kicks in with like they might even see a glimpse of like, oh, maybe this might be like a religious thing, and then they're just like, no. And just like straight away, no, it's not. It's definitely not. It's funny, but I always laugh when I see that sometimes, especially like you hear about like priests always have to have a week retreat every year, if I'm not wrong, going away, and then you overhear people, oh, I went on a yoga meditation retreat for 4 days and I've never felt better. And it's like, maybe it was just because you sat with your own thoughts or stuff like that. It might not be the yoga meditation and worshipping. And
funny you mentioned that, because people will go and chase other forms of spirituality, so to speak. But in our Christian tradition, and to all of those people who profess a faith in Christ, we have that, and we've always had that, but no one's just looked deep enough to actually sit with your thoughts and pray and surrender to God. And we've got it. It's there. It's existed. Anyway, Anth, what did you take out of it?
I would probably say it was the prayer side more than anything. The phone thing I noticed the most as well, but it's the thing that I easily fall back into the most as well, especially YouTube. YouTube is killer. It's
directed at young males. It's like our age group. It's like, and like sports doesn't help with YouTube as well.
I'm all over the place, man.
A million podcasts of sport.
Yes,
it happens. But the one podcast that you should be watching,
of course, Against the Grain.
Where father and son talk faith and footy. Like, subscribe, comment, follow. Do all that jazzy stuff.
Record it on your VHS.
Record it on your VHS.
So then you don't have to be on your phone.
Yeah, your 100-pack of floppy disks, that'll get an episode into it.
A nice reminder,
It's all there. It's all there.
That's it. Let's just get in with our intro to start off with, because that's how you get into the segment. And so we have to start off with Father Ben's big hit of the week. And so, sorry, I will just mention that we have been a little bit lazy. Father Ben in the last episode mentioned we did have some potential sponsors coming up, but to no one's fault except ours, I guess. We sadly do not have a sponsor yet. And I won't go on too much or too long of a rant on this, just because we do have people reaching out and we appreciate it. And when we do get something going, we will have a sponsor, and this will be a more uplifting message from myself. Thank you for listening. All right, so
just on that, it looks so much better when our magician Anthony actually edits everything.
Yeah.
Like, for anyone at home, that is the funniest thing to watch Anthony do every week without any editing whatsoever.
But the editing is on point. Thanks,
He's on point.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. God bless you, mate.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into it.
Bless your cotton socks.
Bless your cotton socks.
Let's get into. Oh, sorry. Let's just a little preview. Is Josh played for Lebanon for the first time against Malta last year, in April of last year, I think it was. You're looking at me funny. Maybe it wasn't.
June, I think.
June, that's the one.
It was freezing. That's the
well, it was close. Oh, yeah. Fair enough. In June of last year, yeah. And actually, I was I was keen to go to the game and watch it. Like, I was so happy, man. I was like, this is awesome. And your whole family were there. And we had a little group of St. Felix parishioners. St. Felix youth going there. Yeah.
They're Lebs in Bankstown, are they?
Yeah, there are. Some you know.
Oh, okay.
Just a handful.
Sprinkling.
But Josh made his debut for Lebanon. And we'll talk a little bit about his experiences in Lebanon. And he actually got picked for the World Cup as well. So we'll get into that. But we have a big hit from that game, from the Lebanon-Malta game. And so let's show Father Ben the hit. And Josh, it'll be on the screen behind you. You can relive it if you like.
There we go. Kick down the field. Fielded by a Maltese player that no one knows the name of. Big hits! Maree, Josh Maree came over the top with the shoulder, didn't make initial contact, so it can't be claimed as his big hit. But then he walked away like it was nobody's business.
Nick Cassis. Can we just replay
Play it again.
Yeah, just play it again, because just focus on the top of the screen, just above the scoreboard there. Have a look at Josh's head after this hit. Watch this. Look at that. He gives it to him a little bit. You can see him spray.
Josh walks away from it.
What did you say?
Maltese player was not happy at all.
No, he comes in to fight you, but you just walked off, and Nick Cassis gets mad. So he goes. But what I love is as soon as he hit him, the ref blew a penalty, and none of the Lebanese players cared about the penalty. They all came and congratulated him.
Great.
Yeah, Cassis, he was pretty fired up, old Nick. But
who was the guy that made the first contact that made that shoulder a lot easier for you?
Josh Risk. Yeah,
Josh Risk.
I played with him this year.
Josh Risk with the big hit.
Yeah, Josh Risk.
And you just made it look good.
He just went over the top and look, a bit of a spray. And looking back, I wish I don't spray guys like that. But when I'm in the heat of the moment, I generally do.
What do you say? What do you say? Like, is it just like
I couldn't remember what I said to him there. And if I did, I probably wouldn't repeat. But honestly, I don't remember what happened there. But I think there was a little bit of chat in that game. Both teams were sort of chatting away a bit. But
fair enough.
But sometimes, the penalty, all the teammates are happy, but sometimes the coaching staff, when you give away a penalty, probably not as happy if you're running out of the line. They're probably, but it's good.
So, mate, you get selected for your country.
Yeah.
You get selected for Lebanon, and what's that feeling like when your name comes up and you're playing for your country?
Yeah.
Because you haven't played a first grade game.
No, I haven't even played New South Wales Cup.
New South Wales Cup, you haven't played, and you've been very open and vulnerable about that. Is that you've picked a career, a family, and
but it's not even that. Like, I didn't even pick the career picked me. It's more like if I could play footy, I would love to, but it just wasn't good enough. But and I remember being surprised at even getting picked for that game. And then after that game, I did enjoy the environment, and the boys there were really good. And then they said, "Oh, we'll be in contact with you." And it was a bit sort of in my head. I thought, all right, sure you will. And then we did a big camp, and it started with 50 guys maybe, but they flogged us for 4 weeks at Belmore 3 nights a week, and they sort of withered it down every couple of weeks, or every week they sort of cut a few, and every week I was still there. But in my head, a lot of the guys that played New South Wales Cup or NRL, all of them weren't there, so it was anyone under that level. So, and in my head I'm like, well, there's a lot of them to come back. There'd be genuinely maybe 4 or 5 spots left. And I don't even know if there's a spot in my position, to be fair. But funnily enough, we're probably stronger in the backs than the forwards. Like, a lot of NRL experience in the backs. Yeah. So then it sort of withered down and got near the end. I was like, this is a bit strange. And then they had guys come in from Queensland Cup and stuff like that playing my position. I thought, well, they're just like, they're bringing me along for a ride. They need numbers. At training, you need numbers. I'm enjoying it anyway. Like, I genuinely didn't think I was going. And it's not me trying to be humble or anything. Like I said before, there's a lot of good footballers around, and I just thought, this is a great experience. I might as well give it everything I got. You got Matt King, Jake Friend coming down to train you. Like, these guys have played hundreds of NRL games, play for the state. Matt King played for his country. I don't know if Jake did, but he might have. And like, they're coming down, like, coaching 40 Lebos on a Wednesday afternoon at Belmore. And like, to me, that was something that I enjoyed, not because they were ex-first graders, ex-origin players, they were helping us out. It was more the fact that's true humility. They're coming down, coaching, like they're Australian background, Anglo-Saxon background, and they've just got all these Lebos running around this field, and we're doing wrestling sessions and stuff like that. And
is it a different intensity to park footy?
Yeah, and it proved it was probably a bit too intense for me, but it was a great experience. And the whole trip, and even being around the training, you do a lot of training, and that was when you're essentially doing it full time for 5-6 weeks while you're over there. So we did a week here before Monday to Friday, and that week of training was intense. So I think there was only 4 or 5 guys that weren't doing it as a career. So there was part-timers, but they're still training full-time with NRL, but they haven't played NRL yet. They're used to that NRL standard. I remember that week at Belmore knowing that this is it was a step up, and blokes, you don't make mistakes and stuff like that. But it was good. I loved it. Loved every minute of it. The coaching was great. That was the biggest thing I enjoyed, was being told, similar to what we were talking about before, a bit about not fluffing around with it. It was great to someone to come up to you and say, hey mate, you did this wrong. If you do this wrong again, it's not good. And they were direct like that. Anyone that probably you see of Michael Checker, that's his personality. It's the best thing ever. He'll be that's crap. Don't do that. And it's good because it gives you an objective thing to get better at. They'll objectively, all the coaching staff will say, this isn't good, this is good. Whereas a lot in other forms of footy and coaching, it's oh, you did all right here. But deep down, the coach wants to say, hey mate, that wasn't good. But they don't, because I think they know people will just go home. They'll know the kid will just go, oh, he told me something bad, I'm just going to walk home. I don't enjoy this. So I love that the most. Yeah, it was really good. So
you put on the colours for the first time, you run out onto that field and represent your country.
Yeah.
What's that feeling like?
Yeah. I remember there was so we got the both sheds on either side, but there's a common hallway. And I remember putting my jersey on, and I was we're doing some mobility workout. So I remember looking over, and Nelson was in the thing. I was this can't be real. This is a bit strange.
That's Nelson to soften Solomon.
Yeah, big Nelson. And then running out that night there at the stadium, and then even the anthems, and then sort of it goes when you watch it on TV, it feels like it takes forever to get to the haka. I remember next thing I knew, I was standing there, and they were all sort of doing the haka, and you're oh geez, this is, and I'm thinking, lucky I'm running back to the bench here. Enjoy the first hit up. Nah. I was probably thinking I'd probably enjoy, it was probably good because your adrenaline's running. It would have probably been better. I remember sitting on the bench just wanting to get out there. I was burning that much nervous energy, and got 20 minutes out there and enjoyed the experience. And then the rest of the time I didn't get picked, but I still loved it. We made the quarterfinals. We beat Ireland the next week, and they were mainly full-time footballers, Super League or NRL. They had some really good players like Luke Keary and that, and the boys put them to the sword. They destroyed them, and we just got so many good players, so many good young Lebanese players. The NRL guys, obviously, they're top-notch players, and then even the guys just underneath, they're all really good footballers, and it's sort of a good thing for, especially when they play in Australia, the big Lebanese community. It's great. They've got a really good team to get around, get behind. Yeah.
Yeah, and you played that first round game in the World Cup against New Zealand, and they're all full-time rugby league players. They're some of the best. New Zealand's a quality team. I remember I was edging the whole game. I was waiting. I was when's Josh coming on? When's Josh coming on? And because firstly, it was an entertaining game because we were in it. It was really, it was exciting to watch. But when you got on, I was man, I felt this I'm not even I can't imagine how your family would have felt. I was just I felt my heart dropped, man. I was so nervous and everything. Man, I promise I'm not just saying this. You just went out there and did your job against full-time, some of the best rugby league players. Yeah. And your defense is always hard. It's you go in for shots, and I love that. That's solid. And you went on, you got a penalty on your first hit up or something. I remember these
I remember that eased the nerves a bit, because I remember coming out of a corner, I was geez, time to bite down on the mouth guard a bit and cop it. But then I sort of settled in a bit, but then I made a couple of mistakes here and there, and but it was a great learning experience. But it also made me respect like how good these guys are at footy. And like now I sit back and watch them on the couch, and you're like, that guy's like, when you see them do it to other full-time footballers, you're like, that guy, like, he's a freak, you know.
Yeah,
and stuff
fair
like
enough.
that. Yeah, it's really
Fair
good.
enough.
Yeah, it was a bit surreal. I think at the time it wasn't, because you're like, you got training next day, you got recovery, whatever, you're going. But sitting back now and looking back on it, like, especially if my mates like to take the mickey out of me a bit, like, oh, here he is, the international. Like me, actually, we've got another close mate of ours that played for Ireland at the previous World Cup, so they used to rip into him about him being an international. So now they G me up a bit as well. But that's
awesome.
Yeah, looking back, I think it was something I'll look back on in the future, that you versus the Kiwis, who at the time I think they didn't end up winning it, but they were favourites going in. So it was great. No, it was really good.
Nice.
Very good. Yeah. And so the World Cup, you were overseas for how long?
About 6 weeks.
About 6 weeks. Yeah. And you make time in your schedule to get to Mass each Sunday?
Yeah, we were lucky. We're in Manchester, so it's like a large city. So, and we're in a Western country, like obviously in England. So there's plenty of churches around. So it was good. It fit around the schedule fairly well. We played all our games except the last game against Australia was on a Sunday. So I remember the New Zealand game. We had a team walk when I was planning to go to Mass, and I thought like they're pretty approachable. So I just went straight to Michael Checker and said, listen, like, I got to go to Mass on Sunday, and this is the time. I've got the team walk. I'm going to miss. He's like, mate, go for it. Like, you know, he said, I think he joked, said, say one for me and stuff like that. And then I think I misquoted actually the Saint for Lost Causes. And then I got corrected by Matt King, the assistant coach. So he knew it better than me. But I said, yeah, plenty of prayers. But and then so they had no issue with it. I think as well, knowing the Islamic boys on the trip had already they were going to Friday prayer as well, and there was no problem. So like everyone sort of knew.
So there was an understanding.
Yeah, for sure, and
flexibility.
Yeah, for sure. And I didn't want to make a big deal out of it in terms of, you know, sort of like you weren't going to announce it anyway. But like I just went up to the coach and he said all good. And then the boys then like you go for a walk around and sort of everyone gets a coffee and stuff like that. And I joined them a bit later on in it. A couple of people asked me where you're at Mass. No one bats an eyelid. No one you're all adult men. That some of them be like probably thinking that's a bit strange. Some of them they didn't even think about it.
Isn't it funny that it's a very human reaction to you're all adult men, you all just have the chat, it's all good.
Yeah.
But these are sometimes the instances that media picks up on and they just run with.
Yeah, for sure.
You've got to pick one or the other.
Yeah.
And that is it.
Yeah, and I think how you go about how you display your faith, obviously you don't want to fit into the thing where your faith is a personal thing that you do in your own home and it's completely separate from your everyday life. It wasn't like that at all, but it is important how you do approach it. It doesn't mean you it doesn't mean you go on Instagram and start telling people where they're going to go if they're living certain lifestyles or stuff like that. There is prudence involved, yes. And there is a way to do it. It doesn't mean what was like quoting a Bible shouldn't maybe you lose your job, but as a Catholic Christian in particular, the virtue of prudence and knowing like, am I really going to convert? So say the Islamic boys that are going to pray on a Friday, am I really going to convert them by going up to them and reciting the gospel to them? Probably not, because they're currently praying on Fridays and it's probably not going to. So the way you approach it, I knew obviously Michael Checker was the coach when that Israel Folau stuff happened, and I was fairly confident that he'd be fine with it just from that. Like I'm sure he learned from that experience. I don't want to speak on behalf of him, but everyone gets to learn and stuff like that. And it was a complete sort of a non-issue, but it was good to have that reset of being able to, the familiarity of going to Mass on a Sunday. Nice. And then I think he had all All Souls Day, All Saints Day when I was there. So it was a holy day of obligation, and I was in Leeds at the time. They had a really nice cathedral, and I think we had the day off, or we had training for half the day, and I just wandered up.
Amazing.
And it's easy. It's as being a Catholic, when you go overseas. Like I remember going overseas with some Coptic Orthodoxes, and they had no church they could go to that was accessible. Whereas Catholic Church, you can every major Western city in the world, you can go down. Wouldn't go more than a few k's, and you got a church. You can go pray with the Lord and receive the sacraments. So it's great.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and I think it's easy, like for the experience you had, like to be representing your country at the highest level, like at a World Cup. I mean, it would have been easy to just say, well, like, you know, it's all right if I miss mass for the team walk. Like I've got to be part of this experience. Like, so for you to have still kept your head screwed on.
I understand what you're saying in terms of like, especially not being like, I'm probably the 17th of the, and this is not same again, I'm not being like trying to be humble, but at the end of the day, all the other guys I'm playing with are good footballer. I'm probably the 17th to pick out of the 17, and then you're the guy that's, I can't make the team walk because I've got to go to mass. You don't want to rock the boat, but if you do it the right way, I've found in my life, if you do it the right way, people respect you in the long run. And if they don't respect you, like politely, I don't care. You know, if someone's going to have a laugh, but if someone's going to have a laugh at you for going to mass, like if you break it down, well, that guy went to mass instead of coming on the team, or like if you break it down, it's like, what are they teasing you about? Like, who cares? You know what I mean? Like, there's so many things I think in our faith where when you break down, people are teasing you about it. Like it doesn't really matter. Like, when you think about it deeply, you don't really care. So
and that's brings me to just this final point. Now we had in the gospel over the week, Jesus looked to the coin and he said, "Who's on this coin?" And they let him know it's Caesar. And he says, "Render to Caesar what is Caesar, and to God what is God's." And I think you've adopted that approach in a very just balanced way, where you've got to thank God you've got so many blessings in your life. You've been able to play football, you've represented your country, got a beautiful wife and a family, you're doing your best with your profession, and there's just a really good balance about it. But in no way have you compromised who you are as a person, and you haven't had to do that in any way. And even in instances where Anthony's just said, you know, you're representing your country at the World Cup, you know, a lot of people would have thought you should be part of that team walk. You just went into it as a mature man. You didn't make a big deal of it. You asked properly, and you were given a thumbs up. And I think that's what Jesus is talking about in that gospel, is just be a normal person, but understand the priorities in life and don't compromise on that. And you haven't, and it's worked out well for you. So thanks be to God. Thanks 100%. Be to God. Josh, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
We wish you all the very best with what you're going through at the moment, and I think you're expecting number 2.
Expecting number 2.
Hey, amazing.
Congratulations.
New Year's Day.
Yeah, it could be.
What an amazing gift. What an
Yes.
amazing gift. Our prayers are with you and your family. Continue to do what you're doing and be a role model for your own community, but family first. Don't lose the faith, mate, because we know it's the most important thing in the world. Sure. So again, thank you, Anthony. Another great segment and program.
Yes.
We'll finish with prayer. Nothing else to say?
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. The pen is
Lucky
mightier than the
someone.
sword. Josh, we're going to ask you to add your John Hancock to that Steeden.
Thank you.
And while you're doing that, Anthony, I'll ask you to grab the board here.
Sure.
And if you can, I know I've put you on the spot, but we're going to ask you to sign the canvas. And if you want to put either your favourite scripture quote or word of encouragement, whatever it might be, we'll ask you to throw it on the board there. Something inspirational, something that we're going to remember you for a long time to come.
Caress, stealing it.
Go for it.
Oh, the chat zone. Thought I spelt my name wrong there. That would have been.
Josh has officially won the award for the worst handwriting on the board so far.
Thanks for dobbing me in.
That's all right.
I'm going to have a look at yours later.
Jesus, I trust in you.
Yeah,
Amen.
I heard it.
Divine mercy.
Yeah,
Amen.
first thing to say, if you have like a morning offering, I heard someone say it was powerful to maybe like, if you can, first thing in the morning, get on your knees. And if you don't have like, if you're not struggling for prayer or going through like dryness in prayer or something, just start with that on your knees and
Trustful surrender to the Lord. That's what it's all about.
good way to start the day.
Amazing. So we're going to finish now the way we started the show, and that's in prayer. And we'll just give it all to God. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen. Lord, we thank you for this graced moment with Josh, for the many gifts and abilities that he uses each day to glorify your name. We ask that you keep him and his family safe and protected from all evil, especially in this time where they are expecting their second child. May he continue to glorify your name in all he does in his daily life, and may you continue to inspire us to live as Christians in this world, being witnesses to the truth of the gospel, the love of Jesus Christ, and the inspiration of the Holy Spirit. The Lord be with you.
And with
With
your
your
spirit.
And may Almighty God bless you all here and those at home, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Remember, our Lord Jesus Christ says, "You are the salt of the earth. What good is salt if it loses its taste?" So stay salty.
And don't be afraid to go against the grain.
See you
God
next time,
bless.
everyone. All the best.